Hi, I'm Zena, and I'm from Adaptive Sailing Kelowna. So to tell you a bit about Adaptive Sailing Kelowna, we are a nonprofit organization, and we introduce people with disabilities and age-related issues to the joys of sailing on our beautiful Okanagan Lake, of course. So we've been running since 1993, and our program includes sailing for the fun of it, sailing to learn to sail Canada standards, and for more adventurous people, we do offer the opportunity to learn to race. So our boats do ensure your safety and offer great accessibility. They're designed not to tip, so these are not swimming lessons. And even people with severe disabilities can learn to operate them using a joystick or state-of-the-art sip and puff technology. So we have trained instructors as well as a lot of experienced volunteers who come out and help to give you the best experience possible. But of course, I feel like a video can say this much better than I could ever do. And we do have a great video called The Joys of Sailing, which Michelle can hopefully show you guys.
Experience freedom, inclusiveness, and the joy of sailing.
My name is Ian Price, and I'm 36 years old. I started sailing about
So I
5 years
don't think
ago.
we're seeing the video on
Hans,
your
who
screen
is
right
the
now.
gentleman that started this club here, he actually found me downtown and said,
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Let me know when you can see it.
Oh yeah, I see it now.
All right. Try again.
These are the stories
there is a foundation out there that helps to get back into it.
of organizations
Is it good
making
now?
a difference.
What really
Yeah, thank you.
something is people's imagination.
And empowering others across Canada.
When I get into that sledge, I'm free, man. I'm playing hockey.
It's a great organization and it's worth supporting.
In our community. Like many other BC cities and towns, Kelowna has a long tradition of sailing, regattas, and marinas. And with that come organizations like Disabled Sailing Association, that is about getting people on the water to experience freedom, inclusiveness, and the joy of sailing.
my name is Ian Price, and I'm 36 years old. I started sailing about 5 years ago. Hans, who is the gentleman that started this club here, he actually found me downtown and said, "Hi, I'm Hans. Have you ever been sailing?" "No." "Okay, well, this is my phone number, and I would like you to go out on the water in a week or two." So hey, I talked to them, and they threw me in the boat, and I've loved it ever.
Club here, and I wanted to be a part
very limited mobility. I can pretty much only move my thumbs, and I'm on a ventilator for breathing, and I also use a suction machine to help because I can't swallow.
When Ian arrives, it's a rather large ordeal to get his boat set up. It takes, record time was 45 minutes, but it generally takes an hour. The boat is as prepared as it can be in that the winches are on and the rod is in to work the rudder.
My name is Tracy DeLorme. I am a volunteer with the Disabled Sailing, or as we're calling it now, the Adaptive Sailing Program here in Kelowna. Ian Price is one of our sailors. He's been sailing with us for at least 3 years now, and we've been sailing together all that time.
The setup process, once I am on the dock, is preparing the boat and then placing me into a custom-made seat.
Okay, now I'm going to get ready to transfer you over to your chair. Ready? Yep. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to put you in your chair.
Ian and his father created, we call them sort of magic fingers, where there's 2 wires on his index finger and a wire on his thumb and on both hands, and he can touch them. And that's how he moves the rudder and the sails.
Tight enough for now, or would you like it tighter? Okay. And the wire, I'm just gonna kind of coil into your lap. I think you're ready to go into the boat. Bring the lift over here. Get you hooked up.
Then Ian is transferred from his wheelchair into a special chair that is lifted into the boat with Ian in it. Once Ian is in the boat, there's a lot of very delicate work to make sure those electrodes are working. So there's duct tape, a lot of duct tape involved.
Like how big? Can you tell me there? 8 inches. There? That's good.
Just a lot of checking in with Ian, because we also have to take his respirator on the boat and other equipment that ensures he will be fine during the whole sailing experience.
The biggest challenge for Ian when he's sailing is keeping his hands in a position that he can actually move his thumbs freely. As the boat sort of pitches forward and backward and from side to side with waves and just the natural sailing of a boat, you tend to, feel more or less. As the boat is moving around, his hands are moving around. So to try and keep them in position so that he can actually make everything work, that's our biggest challenge. Power going. Ian, you're in charge.
Woohoo! Having control of the boat is definitely a unique experience, and it's really empowering. I think sailing has definitely reduced my anxiety level, and I just feel like a more relaxed person that can appreciate the outdoors. In my life, I'm usually surrounded by so much technology, and it's just really nice to be out on the water and enjoy the sun and the freedom. And yeah, it's just a really unique experience. On the water, I feel like a completely different person, and I feel like I'm escaping from the wheelchair and able to just really be out there and enjoy myself.
One of my favorite stories about Ian, 2 years ago in 2017, Ian and I competed here in Kelowna in the Mobility Cup, which is a race for disabled sailors. And we had one day that was super, super windy, and I was kind of nervous about taking him out again because of the issue with waves making it hard for him to control the boat. He's like, there's wind, we're going to go. And so we did go, and we did really quite well in the race.
I have raced, I was the Mobility Cup in 2017, and I was also in the Commodore's Cup. Commodore's Cup, I actually won first place, and the Mobility Cup, I was dead last every race.
He just wants to participate so much, and it's so infectious. We actually created an award for Ian at Mobility Cup, and it was the Outside the Box Award, because he couldn't use the joystick that we normally have people use. And so he and his dad had to develop a way that he could sail the boat. So thinking outside the box, he did that in spades. And so we created that award, and now every year we try and award it to someone who has also overcome extraordinary challenges to sail.
Every day, if you're out on the water, is so different. Sometimes it's really windy, other times you're just sitting there bobbing around. But I think for the most part, it's in the Okanagan, we're really lucky to have beautiful weather and just enough wind to pick up the sails.
Our community will return after the break. We now return to our community.
My name is Samuel Peters. I'm 11 years old.
Samuel is an adorable little boy that started sailing with us last year. He's one of our youngest sailors. Samuel doesn't have legs, but sometimes you think he's not aware of that because he's just as active as any little boy you might meet.
Oh, good. The boat's ready. I'll get in the boat and then I'll help you in, okay?
Okay.
He does get by in a wheelchair, and then when he gets out of the wheelchair, he's able to get to the boat with the use of his hands. He kind of jumps right in the boat and off he goes.
All right. My name is Stephen Peters. I'm the dad of Samuel Peters. Samuel is 11 years old and he is a bilateral above knee amputee, which means he doesn't have knees or ankles or feet. And so he is typically in a wheelchair or prosthetics. We'll let these loose for now. So you hold on to the lines, and then when we're ready, we'll tighten them up.
Okay.
We discovered Adaptive Sailing Association through their open house last year, and just sort of wandered in, and Sherry Lee made us feel comfortable and let us know how to become involved. And then they trained me how to sail as well, so I could sail with one of my boys. It's just been great because I never thought I would be sailing the Okanagan Lake. And we just sort of stumbled upon this opportunity, and it's been a fantastic thing for our family. All right, it's all you now.
Okay.
A typical sailing day with Samuel would mean that we come here to the Colonial Yacht Club, and if it's a windy day, we'll go all the way up north to the lumber mill or the lighthouse. And if there's not a lot of wind, then we'll usually just go to the bridge or across the lake and then come back. So you can't go directly against the wind, but you can sort of go off to the side. So if you bring in the sail a bit tighter, not the red one,
The red
the
one?
main one, a little
Tighter?
tighter, yeah, a little more. Yeah, you feel the pull of the wind on the sail there?
Yeah.
A little more. There it is. Okay. Now you want to take a little bit more to the left.
This
There you
way?
go. And you feel the boat tilting a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Caught some good wind. But as soon as you bring it around, it'll start to ease off because the wind's coming from where you're pointing now.
So go this way?
The right again. Yeah.
The way how the boat works is how it turns, I turn the lever. I like about sailing, I get to go fast.
Samuel's biggest challenge in sailing would be a slow day, so there's not a lot of wind. It can be quite relaxing and meditative if you're into that sort of thing. But if you're like Sam and want to go, and feel the freedom of the wind in your hair and all of that, so a slow day is a hard day. I think that would be his worst nightmare, would be a day without any wind.
When there's no wind, it's slow.
Sailing for Sam has been an opportunity for him to learn to control his own direction. So often in a wheelchair, he's confined to very specific routes, and he's searching for ramps and ways to get into buildings. But when he's on the sailboat and he's out in the middle of the Okanagan Lake, he can go anywhere. Last season was our first season, and after probably 3 or 4 sessions, he was able to control the boat on his own. And so the first time he did that, I was in another boat halfway across the Okanagan Lake, and I could hear him just giggling. He was having so much fun and so excited that he could control this boat and he could go anywhere he wanted. As long as he could catch a little bit of wind, he was totally free.
Hey Bill, how's it going?
Good. Hi, Sherry Lee. It's going good.
Good, good. We got some nice wind, so it should be a good sail today.
Good. That's great.
Bill Campbell is the oldest sailor that we have, and I really enjoy going out on the water with Bill.
I'm 73 years old, and I didn't know I was the oldest sailor in the Disabled Sailing Association in Kelowna. That was a surprise to me. Ever since my father read me the Hornblower stories, which was about a sailing captain in the Napoleonic Wars, I was always interested in sailing. And when I saw the boats, the sailing school boats on the dam in Calgary, I decided to take it up as a sailing school. So I started to sail lift. I then bought my own boats as I got older. I had a couple of what they call fireballs, which were 16-foot scows that sailed really fast.
Bill is a very independent person. He used to sail fireball dinghies. He used to hang out the side in a trapeze, but he's since had some medical issues. Unfortunately, he is in a wheelchair, and one side of his body is paralyzed. So when he comes, we do use the sling and the lift to get him in the boat. All right, so we get a sling on,
Okay.
and Devin will just pull it underneath.
Okay. You don't forget my little pillow.
Yes, I have your pillow.
The harness is a light piece of fabric with six loops on the end that they put under your body and then attached to a lift that lifts the 3 loops on either side. They lift you out of your chair to put you in the boat, and you're ready to sail.
Okay, I am ready for you. Got you over the boat comfortably, and we'll just set you down. And once he's settled in the boat, he does have a cushion on his back. So we make him as comfortable as possible. He has his coffee, and off we go. All right, it is good wind out there, so it's going to be a great day.
Good. I joined the Disabled Sailing Association because it was the only way I was going to get on the water. I can't rig or put a boat in the water by myself. So I need someone to do it for me. When I heard about the Disabled Sailing Association from my wife, it was the ideal thing for me to be able to get on the water in a boat. Otherwise, I couldn't do it. Living in Kelowna and not being able to use a lake, that would be very, very distressing and depressing. I like being on the water. I'm not particularly interested in racing, but I like being on the water when it's calm, and I like it when it's really windy. I love the sort of the challenge to be able to beat the wind and tack into heavy waves.
No, this is perfect wind. I love it. Not too strong, not too light. It's just nice. And it's not gusty, which is rare on the lake.
Yes. In terms of changes in myself since I've started to sail with Disabled Sailing Association, I just feel better every time I come back from sailing. It's just a good feeling. Whether it's been a quiet day or a windy day, it doesn't make any difference. Being on the water is the important part.
So what are you reading right now?
Science fiction books, basically. That's one. Some books on bridge. And what else?
Bill just likes to come out for his hour, and him and I have great conversations in the boat. It's not just sailing time for us, it's also social time, and it's just really nice to bring that back for Bill, what he did experience in his youth.
We have very interesting conversations from philosophy, politics, religion, you name it, we talk about everything.
Bill's a big reader, and often he's reading a very deep philosophical book, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about his cat. Bill rides around his wheelchair with a water gun tucked behind it because apparently the cat needs it every now and then.
If you have a good partner that you're sailing with, it's a great time to discuss it. You don't discuss much on windy days because you're struggling to keep the boat up.
there's no question that being out there can be very peaceful or very challenging. And if the waves are high and the wind is high, it's a great feeling to be able to deal with it and then beat it. If it's quiet, it's a great feeling just to relax and enjoy the scenery, the lake, and the sun. It's great. Either way, can't lose.
That was nice, hey, Phil? The wind was
It
just
was
so
great,
perfect.
Phil. It was great. It was great. It was great. There were no motor boats. The wind was good. Couldn't ask for more. You couldn't really ask for a better day of sail.
Our community will return after the break. We now return to our community.
My name is Dory Roberts. I'm 52 and I'm here sailing at the Kelowna Yacht Club for the very first time. It's a beautiful day in Kelowna and I'm very excited. My disability is retinitis pigmentosa, RP for short, and it's where I don't have a peripheral vision. And I decided to do this because I've always been wanting to go onto the water, but very scared.
Hi, Dory.
Hi,
Mary.
nice.
So nice to meet you. You're looking forward to going out today?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Well, welcome
Yeah.
to the Disabled Sailing Association.
I'm nervous about sailing. I've never sailed before, so this is the first time. I was always wanted to sail and then afraid that I may fall off, but they reassure me here that there's no need to worry. And I didn't know until just the other day that I actually get to drive the boat. So ironically, I used to be a driving instructor, so I used to teach people how to drive. So now someone's going to teach me how to sail.
We use, generally speaking, Martin 16s. So they're a 16-foot sailboat with a seat in the front for the sailor and the seat in the back for the person who's there to code, help, or even sail from the back seat. They're perfect little sailboats with a very heavy keel on the bottom of the boat. The bulb on the bottom is so that the boats don't tip over. That makes it very safe for the sailor. We make them adaptable so that everyone can sail. We have a motto: if you breathe, you can sail, and if you can't breathe, then bring your respirator and we'll make it work for you. So have you ever sailed?
No, I've never been in a
Oh my gosh, this is fabulous. You'll love it. There's just nothing better than being on the water, especially on a day like today.
I discovered about 15 years ago that I had RP. It answered a lot of questions for me. Why I was falling down, bumping into things.
When we have a new member coming, we like to make sure that they're comfortable with the boat. So we show them the boat, we explain to them how it's going to work. Step down into this. You're doing great. Didn't like that so much, eh? It is scary the first time. The boat, when you do step on it, it does rock, and that is unnerving for some people. They're not comfortable with that at all. The yellow and blue sheet is controlling your front sail, your head sail. Once they're sitting down, we'll go over some more things. For example, how the sheets work to move the sails, how the rudder works. But most of the training is done, most of the education is done on the water. Okay, and now I'm going to turn the engine on. And we're going to drive out of here. So you have the stick in front of you there.
So you just steer the direction you want to go.
Exactly.
So this way?
Perfect.
And we're going over to the right, over that way, or
Yeah.
you're not afraid of hitting any other
No.
boats?
No. It's completely safe, and we do try and reassure people that the boat will not tip over. We will definitely keel over, but we're never going to capsize.
Wow. I've never been on this lake at all.
Really? Oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it's very similar to driving a car.
Yes. So what we find with a lot of our sailors that have visual impairments is obviously they hear a lot. So if they hear the sail shaking in the mast, that means they're too close to the wind. So they have to go away from the wind. So in this case, the wind is coming over the left side of the boat. So we would turn to the right to fill the sails up more.
Oh, okay. You would hear these rattle?
This
for
closer to the mast, which is the tall pole right up front where the sail joins the mast there.
the sailing was fantastic. I had a great time here. I'll definitely be back. I want a little bit more wind next time. So this was good. Today is a nice and calm day. So next time, a little more adventure, baby steps.
Hey Bill, how's it going?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good day for a sail today.
It's a beautiful day for a sail. It's nice to see you out. Bill Ma is one of our blind sailors. He's been sailing with us for about 3 seasons now. He is a gregarious individual and full of character. So just sailing with Bill is a true enjoyment. So you must be anxious to get out sailing, eh?
Yes.
It's been a whole winter.
A little bit of rust, but I'm sure I'll get rid of that pretty quick.
There's a chair for you right there.
I am totally blind. I have no vision. There's certainly challenges. Occasionally, orientation is an issue in terms of finding where things are. But for the most part, I believe that I've overcome most of those challenges.
All right, let's get you a life jacket.
And I'll need the extra large. Nothing has changed in that department. I'm ashamed to admit that.
Yeah, no.
I got invited to participate with the sailing program through a friend of mine who kept on hassling me at curling during the winter of 2014, 2015 to come out and sail. And finally, I figured I might as well give it a shot. So, loved it ever since.
Okay, so we head over to the boat. Take my arm.
Okay.
Excellent.
I always like to boast about the fact that the lake is one of the jewels of this city, and to have the opportunity to get out when you can is certainly something that I enjoy and very much value. There we go.
Okay, so I'll just give you the sheets. The fatter one is the sheet that's going to control the main sail, the bigger sail.
Okay. And it's not cleated yet?
No, if you put it in there, that'll be perfect. And this little skinnier, harder one is for the main sail.
Okay. Is that far enough out? Do we want to?
Yeah, that actually looks
okay.
perfect.
So we got them both cleated.
That's great.
How's that?
There, that's perfect. I will get on board.
A lot of it out on the lake and how it happens for me is audible instructions, turning the rudder left or right, pulling on the jib or the mainsail. So it's very much the person in the back providing me with audible cues of what I need to do.
Okay, I'm just going to undo our stern line and turn the engine on.
Okay.
And you're driving. We're good to go.
You want me to? Okay.
You're doing great.
Okay.
So
Not yet.
we're going to straighten it out right about now.
How's that?
That's perfect.
Okay.
With some of our sailors, when we're out there, if they're able to see, there's a lot of pointing going on. There's a lot of over there going on. And when you're sailing with a person who has vision issues, it's much more important to describe what's going on around you, to ask them to feel the wind, to listen to the sails when they're luffing or when they're full of wind. What does that sound like? Feel the boat when it's leaning over. Like if that feels how it should be, then you know the sails must be set perfectly. There is a slight wind coming from the south, so we're going to turn a bit to the right.
Okay. All right.
And that is good right there. Perfect. And that we're now on a beam reach, so the wind is coming over to this side.
So you want to try to capture some of the wind in the sails? Is that
Yeah, it's beautiful. We are trying to do that.
Yeah.
Very little.
Not a lot, but Mother Nature's not cooperating. To understand how the wind is very much a sensational thing. You can feel the wind on your face. You can feel if it's at your back. And I don't necessarily know the direction of where the wind is, except that we're either facing into the wind by the way the wind blows in my face, or if it's to the back, it comes in on the back. There's lots of therapeutic value in terms of just being out on the water, just not having the noise around you. So I guess it's a bit of a moment of time out that you can kind of refresh the soul and just get re-energized to being out on the water. I would say, if you're thinking about coming out, come out and try. You have nothing to lose, and I would hazard to guess that you will find that you will have just as good a time as I've had being a part of the adaptive sailing program.
The most amazing thing is how it is an equalizer. These people can all sail. They all have the ability to sail, whether they have a companion sailor sailing for them, or whether they're sailing themselves, they have that opportunity to be out on the water and appreciate it and enjoy it just like everybody else can. It's just an incredible thing to see, an incredible thing to experience. It's just beautiful.
Director, cinematographer, Yuri Bakala. Producer, location sound, Lucy Bakala. Editor, Yuri Bakala. Color grading, Stephen Anturi. Original music, Stu Goldberg. Production assistant, Sarah Kushner. Photography, courtesy of City of Calgary, Glenmore Sailing Club, Alan Mills, Johan Butley. Special thanks to the Kelowna Yacht Club, Andy Parsons, Devin Arujo, Holly Adams. Integrated Describe Video Specialist, M. Williams. Regional Content Specialist, Sylvie Fouquet. Coordinating Producer, Jennifer Johnson. Director of Production, Karen Nye. Director of Programming, Brian Purdue. VP Programming and Production, John Melville. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2019, accessible media.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I think that video described adaptive sailing Kelowna better than I ever could. But I will share my screen right now just to give you guys some more information. Okay, so for our sails, a single sail would be $25, but we also do have packages. So if you purchase the first package for $90, you get 4 sails. And if you do the second one, you can do 7 sails for $150. And all these packages also give you a membership. So if you also do the third package, you can do 11 sails for $220. And once you purchase a package, any additional sails that you want to do on top of that would be only $20. And if you do want to go and see this for yourself, you can go on our website right on the top over here. So if you did want to go and check it out as well. Of course, if you do want to come and take a sail with us on the beautiful Okanagan Lake, please contact us, even if it's just to ask any questions or just chat about it. So our number is over here, and you can call me anytime. You can also email on through this email over here. Again, all of this is available on our website, so you can go back there and take a look. And if you have any questions, please feel free to message or call. And I hope to hear from you guys soon.
Like ground beetles, and I've made friends with the purple rimmed carabus here. They're lovely little purple bugs. I found 2 in my garden this year, really excited about that. They'll be crawling around in the soil. Parasitic nematodes can also help. And something that I've seen crop up in a few cities is people renting out chickens and ducks, because chickens and ducks will come spend an hour or 2 in your garden and they will eat every single slug they can find. Of course, there's also the mechanical methods, catch and dispose. So you saw in the previous slide here, I have a handful of slugs. Every morning I was going out and I was picking up a slug and putting it in a bucket and picking another slug. And I would normally have, 50 or 60 slugs. They're easiest to pick off first thing in the morning. That's when it's cooler and they're just getting ready to go and hide for the day. Beard traps. These are the popular thing that everybody tries. They will work if your infestation isn't bad. So basically you fill a shallow container, set it near the ground level, put some beer in it, they'll crawl in and then they'll drown. It'll be maybe a pleasant death because they're drinking beer. But beer traps can attract slugs from up to like 3 or 4 houses away from your yard. So you may just be creating a beer garden where all the slugs come to visit. Other things that people have had success with is just to put something out that will get the slugs to congregate. Other than beer, cucumbers on plates work well. You can put a cucumber plate out and rather than eating your plants, they'll come eat all the cucumbers, dispose of them in the morning, or even placing a board on the ground and they go and they hide under there during the day, pick the board up, scrape the slugs off. You could hire your kids to do this. You could hire other people to do it. It is tedious to pick slugs. That's what's the pain your children. So I have some products here I'll show you. I'll just quickly go back to the full screen here. Can you guys see me or do I need to go back to my video? Sorry, Michelle.
Oh, yes. Yeah, just go back to your video and
How do I get the screen big?
just hit stop sharing.
Oh, stop sharing. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, there we go. So, slug bait. There's lots of different kinds. This is Slug Be Gone. And basically, I'll just get some in the bag here to show you. It's little pellets, and you sprinkle it around your, I'll try not to spill the pellets. You can sprinkle it around on the ground. They come and eat it, and it will get rid of them. There are other methods to protect your plants. This is one that I've had a lot of success with this year. And this is copper tape. So you can pick this up in the garden center. You can also pick this up in music shops because it's popular for kind of protecting, creating like reducing the feedback on your guitars. So the tape is sticky on one side and it has copper on another. And you can take like a strip of it and then stick it to itself and just make a little collar that will go around the plant. So that's a good way to protect individual plants. But if you have a raised garden bed with an edge, you could also put the copper tape all along the edge of your garden. So when the slugs crawl on the copper, they're going to feel a little bit of a zap because the copper will conduct electricity and react with their slime. So that's a good way to prevent them as a mechanical barrier. 6 inches of sand works well. You can put sand down, but if the sand gets damp, they'll probably crawl on it. People have tried eggshells, coffee grounds. I found wood ash, coarse wood ash can help as well. It just makes the ground unpleasant. And diatomaceous earth is very popular. We're going to talk about this a lot. So diatomaceous earth is a powder made up of fossilized microorganisms. It's very sharp and unpleasant for snails to crawl across. So at the end of the day, I did end up using slug bait because we were just overwhelmed with slugs. But I've tried hard this year with the copper collars and encouraging the good bugs. And so far, we haven't had any problems and the lettuce is looking great. So I'll just come back to the presentation now. Let's share screen. So you might have problems with other pests in your garden. Cats and dogs, are they helpful or harmful? My problem with my cat is it eats anything that looks like grass, including trying to eat garlic and onions, which is no good for it. Some ways to deal with it is plant a catnip. They don't like mint or marigolds, so I tend to surround the edges of my garden bed with marigolds. But maybe it isn't your cat you're trying to keep out, and it's some neighbor cat coming in. There are some other methods you can use. Fences might work, but textured surfaces are great. So cats hate walking on pine cones. And we had a lot of success when we were having trouble with neighborhood cats coming in spreading pine cones in areas that maybe they were trying to use the garden as a litter box. And since we started doing that 5 years ago, we've had no problems at all with cats coming in. With dogs, it's best to, I would say physical barriers, fences is best. If you have a young puppy and you're trying to keep it out of your garden, really, it probably needs to be fenced off. Puppies are pretty determined and will rip up lots of plants. So the benefit is a dog or a cat in the yard will help keep other pests away, such as birds or squirrels. Now, birds, are they a friend or a foe? This is obviously a friendly bird. Most of us here in Canada don't have a budgie in the garden. This is our pet budgie that went out for the day. But the birds, where they are problematic, I found, is early spring with sparrows. They really like eating tender seedlings, and last year they went after our pea shoots. The best way of dealing with them in that case is some sort of netting. It doesn't have to be over the plant permanently, just while they're young. Birds will also come after fruits and berries. So I do net my strawberries, my hascops, although with my cherry tree, that produces enough cherries that I'm willing to share with everyone and the birds can have some too. You can also hang shiny flapping things. Some people use CDs or tinfoil or windmills in trees to keep them off. But you do want to encourage birds in your yard. They eat slugs. They eat other bugs. So having a bird bath or something, or if they're really bothering some of your plants, like I said, netting, or maybe providing them with their own feeding station and their own food so they don't eat in your garden. There is one pest here, though, that you do not want to encourage in your garden at all, and that is mice, and even worse, rats. This can also include moles, gophers, kind of any sort of rodent. The problem is that they're going to eat seeds, so they may dig in your garden when you're first planting it. They may eat some plants. They'll definitely go after fruits and berries, and they may carry diseases. One of their favorite things to eat is compost. So if you have a compost bin, it's good to turn it often and try to put lots of stuff in it to keep it so it's really hot and doesn't make a good environment for the mice. The best preventative is a clean garden, no meats or dairy or anything that's really attractive to them in the compost. If you have a cat and dog in the yard, that can help. If you do need to trap them, I recommend either the live trap where you catch them and release them somewhere else if you want to deal with them that way, or the snap trap that's going to instantly kill them. Please do not use glue traps. Glue traps are very inhumane. The mouse dies a slow, horrible death, and it's not just mice that are attracted to glue traps. They can get on cats, they can get on birds, they can attract beneficial insects as well. So there are some other things to deter mice and rats, and we're going to cover those when we get to squirrels. If you live in a rural area, or if you live in a city that's overrun by rabbits, you may have problems with deer and rabbits. And these are problematic because they're going to come in and eat your plants and flowers. Rabbits and deer are both notorious for eating tulips and other vegetables. Deer really like pumpkins. They don't like strong smelling herbs, such as mint, thyme, rosemary, and lavender. So you can surround your garden and edge it in herbs. They don't like the flavor of onions and garlic, nor do they like hot peppers. So you could make a spray by blending up some onions, garlic, and hot pepper, or cayenne, whatever you have, hot sauce, and then spray that onto plants that you don't want them eating. I suggested this to my grandmother, and she was very successful in keeping the deers off the pumpkins by painting her favorite pumpkins with hot sauce. I think she used sriracha. So other preventatives, physical barriers with fences. For rabbits, these need to be flushed to the ground because they will crawl under if they're not well secured. And with deer, they need to be very high. 6-foot fence at the minimum, but you'll probably have more success with an 8-foot fence. My dad has had deer jump his 6-foot fence. So again, I think probably one of the best things here is the chili flakes and the hot sauce on plants that you really want to protect. And then if you have dogs or cats in the yard, they can act as deterrents as well. Now let's focus in on squirrels. So in my garden, slugs have been a serious problem, and the battle with the squirrels has been ongoing for about 10 years. The problem in our neighborhood is that we have a lot of overhead power lines that connect to houses. They create squirrel highways. And then if you grow any sort of fruit tree, squirrels are very attracted to that. So here's a gorgeous tomato, getting ready, bringing it in for a salad, but the squirrel got to it first. This is my problem with squirrels. They're competing with me over the food in my garden. They not only eat plants, berries, fruit, flowers, and bulbs, they also destructively dig. So just about every plant in my garden has been affected at one time or another by squirrels. But the plants I've had the most problem with are sunflowers, cherries, tomatoes, and haskell's. And it's been heartbreaking. You grow a 12-foot sunflower, it's got a beautiful big head on it, it's nearly ripe. You come out the next day and the head is gone and the squirrel's eaten the whole thing. So they're very destructive. They can jump from quite a ways away off garage roofs to land onto the sunflowers. So what can you do to prevent them? Well, the first thing is physical barriers. So netting, as I showed you with birds, Plastic forks stuck into the ground around your flower bulbs can also deter them. So could put like a chicken mesh over your flower bulbs when you first plant them to prevent them from digging up. They don't like unpleasant smells or tastes. Limiting easy access, like making sure that you're growing your sunflowers 10 feet away from the garage. Dogs, our previous dog really didn't like squirrels, and he was good at chasing them out of the yard. Never caught one though. Some people have had success with feeding the squirrels in a dedicated location where they get their peanuts or sunflower seeds, but they still may want to dig and bury that in your yard. And it depends on the population of squirrels whether or not that would be successful. Some people will trap them. It should be a live trap and you're going to take them somewhere else. But this is not that effective because if your garden is a good habitat for squirrels, removing one will just encourage another one to move right in. So I'm going to, here's an example where I've netted my haskip. This was just a day or two ago, so you can see they're starting to get ripe. I'm excited. This fine netting, you can almost not see it in the picture. It's very light, it's black. What I'll do to secure it around the bottom is I just take pieces, I cut an old coat hanger into small pieces and bend that into a little prong and then use it like a staple to stick it into the ground. You can see that I have it, there's stakes back here that you can use to hold the netting up off the top of the plant, or you can also just drape it over the plant. So netting is very successful. I've never had an issue on a netted plant. But I'm going to show you now, I'm going to stop sharing here, some other things that you can use to get rid of squirrels. So we talked about them not liking stinky smells. This is a great product. So, oh, sorry, there's the English side. It's called Get Off My Garden. It's a dog and a cat repellent. So this is something you could use if you have problem cats. So if you look at it inside here, you'll see it's kind of these gooey greens. And when I'm squeezing the bottle, I think it smells great. Cats and dogs and squirrels hate the smell. So this one has methyl. So we've got some like citronella kind of mint smells in it. You could also, get some cotton balls and put just mint extract on it. Like go to the grocery store, get a bottle of mint extract. Some people will use diatomaceous earth because it absorbs the smell quite well. Sprinkle mint oil or mint extract on that and spread that around their garden. Another excellent deterrent is Vicks. So this is just a generic vaporizing cold rub ointment. So it has a nice, strong kind of minty eucalyptus smell. Squirrels don't like this one. So you could paint your pots with this or spread this on the top of the fence and they're not going to want to come into your yard. This has been extremely successful with me. I've used this on the tops of my fences to keep them from using it like a highway. They also hate the smell of blood meal, and blood meal kind of does stink. So, blood meal, you can pick it up at any garden center or, Home Depot or something. This is just like a black powder. You probably can't see it in there. Don't really want it on my computer. But what I'll do is you can sprinkle it on the ground around plants, but it will stick to Vicks. So I've had success smearing the fence and then sprinkling the blood meal on that. You do have to reapply occasionally because after rain falls, it'll start to wash off. But that has been the best thing. Finally, if they're really determined and they keep on trying to climb your sunflower stalks, you can make a paste or a spray out of some cayenne pepper or hot sauce, or even just sriracha, and smear that onto the stalks of the sunflower. And if that's the way they're getting up, that will help deter them from climbing the sunflowers. So that will work. I've used it on squirrels. These methods will also work on really any type of mammal. So cats and dogs. I haven't tested it on rabbits or deer. That's not a problem I have in my yard. But my grandma did on deer with the hot sauce and that worked. So mammals don't like hot sauce. They're sensitive to it like we are. Doesn't bother birds at all. So don't worry about it affecting the birds that you want to come in and eat the bugs in your yard. So that was, we'll just go back to the PowerPoint here. That was everything on kind of the larger pests in the garden. Let's share this here. So now let's jump to, everybody can see my screen, I hope. We'll jump down to talk about bugs. Did anybody have any questions on the pests that we just covered? Because feel free to jump in at any time if you have a question. I'm happy to have discussions as we go through this. So what is the problem with bugs in the garden? Well, biggest problem is they eat plants. So here we have a selection of leaves and greens from my garden last year. And you can see some lovely romaine lettuce, a couple different types of kale. This was pak choy. They really like that. Some other types of kale. And then here we can see these are pea leaves. And we see a few different things eating this. So on the lettuce, it was slugs. And you can see they've just devastated some of these. Here on this piece of kale, we're looking at a leaf miner. And that's the same thing on some of these peas here. So the bugs that I want to talk about today are aphids, bad beetles, like cucumber flea and potato beetles, things like caterpillars, like cabbage moths, cutworms, different types of worms and caterpillars that are going to affect your plants, leaf miners, spider mites, and the new one for me this year that I just learned how to identify is the tarnished plant bug. Now, not all bugs are a problem. There are many very beneficial bugs, and these are the predator bugs that like to eat other bugs. So beetles also fall into this classification, and probably the beetle that everybody knows that eats other bugs is ladybugs. But I want to introduce you to the purple-rimmed carabus. This is a marvelous beetle that crawls around in your soil. It's about the size of your thumb. It's black, shiny, with a little bit of iridescent purple. It eats slugs. It's your friend. Lacewings, hoverflies, nematodes, spine soldier bugs, they're a type of stink bug, and predator wasps. These are all great things to have in your garden. Spiders, not technically bugs, but arachnids. And these in your garden, you'll tend to see two types, either like a web building spider or a hunting spider. So you might have like orb weavers or jumping spiders. Please make friends with your spiders. They're very helpful. There is no bad spider. There just may be spiders that are in the wrong place, like your house or on a flower that you might want to pick. Other beneficial bugs are the pollinators, and this is bees and different types of flies, butterflies and moths, but be aware that some butterflies and moths, their caterpillar phase may be damaging to some plants. So let's start off by talking about the different predator bugs and pollinators and what we recommend for encouraging them in your garden. So the first one is, if you want more helpful bugs, provide shelter and plants for the bugs to live on. So here we have an example of some lacewing eggs on, I believe this was on a milkweed. They also, lacewings really like laying eggs on dill. You want to be very careful when you're tilling or turning your soil not to harm the beetles or their larvae that may be hiding in the soil. Please encourage spiders. Here are some pictures of some jumping spiders. So these are your hunting spiders. I have tried to credit all the photos where possible. I don't have a macro lens, so I'm not able to take really close-up pictures of bugs, but spiders are actually really cute. So if you find a jumping spider crawling around in your house, gently take it out to one of your flowers and put it there. Learn to recognize predator insect larvae. The first time I saw a ladybug larva, and you can see it here eating another bug, I thought, oh, is that good or bad? I don't know. So I went and did some research and kind of described this weird kind of bug thing I saw. And it turns out that it's a ladybug larva. They eat even more aphids than ladybugs themselves. So if you see one of these, and I saw one this morning, very excited about that, make sure it has a good home and lots of other bugs to eat. Let your dandelions blossom in spring. This is really important for pollinators. I know many people don't like dandelions, and you can remove them before they go to seed, but I tend to leave a few early in the year in my garden so that the bees have something to eat. Plant flowers in your vegetable garden. I have my vegetable garden interspersed with bee balm, bachelor buttons, hollyhocks. Grow edible flowers like borage, nasturtiums, pansies, and let your vegetables and herbs bloom and go to seed. So right now my asparagus is blooming. My cilantro is getting ready to bloom. I let a few of my radishes go to seed to create flowers. And there's flowers on the sage and the thyme right now. Sunflowers will be later in the season. Okay, so what do we do about bugs? With the other pests, we're looking at mostly mechanical means to control them, but with bugs, we're going to review chemical, biological, and mechanical treatments for each bug that we're reviewing. Chemical treatments, these are classified as like commercial sprays. Some of them are organic, some of them aren't. Some of them have organic components, like pyrethrins are derived from chrysanthemums, but they might be non-organic if they're combined with other stuff. Spinosad is something else you might see. Different types of soaps, different types of oils like neem, and then there's kind of general pesticides that are more toxic, but sometimes may be necessary. You can also make your own sprays out of like soap, garlic, and mint. Biological treatments include the predators and parasitoids, all the good bugs. Pathogens. So there's a pathogen called BTK. It's a microbial pesticide from bacteria normally found in soils, and it kills caterpillars. And it won't harm beneficial insects, but it only works on moth and butterfly caterpillars. Finally, there's mechanical. You can go and pick and squish the bugs, or get your garden hose, give your plants a good hard spray. That's a good way to get aphids off. There are traps. If you're going to go with those yellow sticky traps, they will trap good bugs too. I only use them inside because I don't want to kill the good bugs. Another way of trapping is to plant a trap crop. So we'll talk about this with flea beetles, but maybe plant extra radishes. Flea beetles are attracted to those and they'll leave your tomatoes alone. Netting, collars, repellents, companion planting, these are other ways to deter insects, and diatomaceous earth, which is a great way for getting rid of really bad infestations, but you have to be careful that you're not harming good bugs. So let's start with aphids. I've saved some plants in my garden so I could take pictures of bugs for you. This is a disgusting infestation of aphids on a cherry seedling. You can see the plant is just covered. And if we watch this video here, you can see the ants crawling around. And what those ants are doing is they're farming the aphids. So they want to get the sticky honeydew that the aphids secrete and eat that. So they're going to protect the aphids from other predators like ladybugs. So if you're going to deal with aphids, you also need to deal with ants. Now, aphids come in many different colors. I'm showing you here some kind of black brownish ones and some green ones. The top one here is on a red currant leaf. The bottom here is on the cherry leaf. And in the top, we can see our lovely, friendly little ladybug larva going in to have a feast on some of those aphids. So some of the treatments you can use like oils and soap sprays. Like I mentioned, the predator insects, ladybugs and their larvae, lacewings, soldier bugs, spiders, these are all great for getting rid of aphids. You could also grow a sacrificial plant. So I've left this cherry seedling because, I don't need it. The leaves are very tender. That's what aphids like best. And this is a good place where I can go trap a lot of aphids. And then once I've trapped a whole bunch, pick the plant, throw it out, get rid of all those aphids. You can squish them. That's a lot of work. Blasting off with the hose works well. You can cover the plants. And then the diatomaceous earth, this will actually get rid of the ants too. Just be careful. Don't spread it broadly across your whole garden. So you could mix the diatomaceous earth up with some water to make a spray. That's going to be easier to put on than a dust. If you are dealing with it as a dust where you're dusting your soil, make sure you wear a mask. It's very fine and it can get into your lungs, and that's not good. So aphids, we're not going to be able to treat them unless we deal with the ants. All right. Oh, yeah, I wanted to show you the life cycle of a ladybug because it's really, really cool. So, you know, the ladybugs mate, they lay some eggs, out come our lovely little larvae. They're not black when they first come out, and you can see as they grow, they start to get more and more orange until eventually they shed their carapace and they grow into the bigger ladybugs. So this was a cool page where the picture came from. It's called Ladybug from a blog called Show Me Oz. So if anybody would like all these links, I can share the presentation with you as well. All right, another bug that I've had a terrible time with in the garden is flea beetles. I didn't know anything about flea beetles until about 5 years ago when my tomato plants started to get holes in them. And I'm just going to stop sharing here and show you some stuff here. So here, let's see if we can find a nice tomato leaf. Here's a leaf from a tomato plant. I left this one because it's kind of ugly looking. And it's got lots of little holes in it. So it almost looks like somebody took a miniature shotgun and shot the leaf. That's the flea beetles taking little nips out of the plant. So if we go back to the presentation here, and oh, I see some questions here in the chat. So sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat as I've been talking. So somebody asked a question, isn't the hot sauce going to burn the plant? So I would not use hot sauce on delicate plants like lettuces or spinach. I would use the hot sauce kind of watered down and painted onto a well-established sunflower. And usually there's not much issue with that. And somebody else has a picture of radishes with the pest eating them. Or is it flea beetles? Because that seems to be the thing that goes after radishes quite a bit. So maybe at the end we can look if any other people have plants that they want to look at.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, let's go back to the presentation here. So here we can see these little, this is the radishes when they were first coming up. It's worse now that they're bigger. They've got all these tiny little holes. And if you look closely, you'll see a little tiny black flea beetle. So there's some holes on a tomato leaf. And we'll just go to the next slide here. There is the flea beetle. So they're quite tiny. I've tried taking that with my cell phone, so I'm sorry if it's not in good resolution. You'll know for sure it's a flea beetle if you go and you try to squish it and it quickly jumps away. So they jump like fleas. They will chew through leaves and stems, and they can carry viruses. So I have found that if you get a bad infestation, you are likely going to have to use some sort of chemical treatment. So oil and soap sprays or something with pyrethrin in it. And once we stop talking about this page, I'll show you a few more sprays here that you can use. So in the very bad year when my tomato plants almost looked like they were dying because they had so many holes in them, I had thousands of flea beetles. And probably what happened in previous years, I hadn't paid attention. There were a few. They multiplied and then they overwintered because I didn't clean my tomato leaves up well enough. So you want to clean up the soil well and practice crop rotations. You're not putting the tomatoes in the same spot. I had to use a spray that had pyrethrin in it to get rid of them. I sprayed them a few times. You have to be very careful with these sprays because they will kill other bugs. So I didn't want to spray anywhere near where there were flowers that the bees might be affected. And I only did it on days early in the morning when there was no wind. There are some biological treatments. BTK was one we looked at in the other case, but there's also BT. There's different variations of these that can be sprayed. This year I'm growing a trap crop of radishes to keep the flea beetles off the tomatoes, and then encouraging predator bugs, ladybugs, stink bugs. I saw a spider catching some today. Birds will eat them. But really, once you get your infestation under control, the best approach is to squish them in the early morning when they're sluggish and not jumping. So I would go out every morning, get close to my leaves and see, is there a flea beetle there? And just go squish, 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 squish. You know, you squish about 20 or 30 of them every morning. You're going to keep them under control. They prefer young plants. So you could cover the young plants when they're most vulnerable. You could plant like garlic or catnip or something stinky that they don't like along with the plants they're trying to eat. And you can also spread diatomaceous earth on the soil because they reproduce in the soil. So I'm going to be spreading diatomaceous earth in the bottoms of my tomato planters because there's really no other bugs in there that I'm concerned about, and that will help kill them off. Mulching can also help. So let me show you a few of the products here. Sorry, we'll stop sharing. So this is a fumigator. This was called Pot It. It has pyrethrin in it and a few other things. There's all sorts of different sprays you can get. The spray cans are useful if you have to go underneath the leaves of the plants. There are other insecticides. So there's insecticidal soap. So this is really just soaps and is pretty safe. This is good on aphids as well as flea beetles and other things. This is a stronger one that has the soap and the pyrethrin in it. And then, like I said, the diatomaceous earth is a good choice as well. And you could spray the plants with that. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, caterpillars, moths, cabbage moths. The treatment of these require accurate identification. So if it is a true caterpillar from a butterfly or a moth, then BTK will work well. But BTK won't work on cutworms because they feed in the soil, and BTK is usually spread on leaves. You can see some damage to the leaves on my hasket here. With worms that are in the soil, nematodes might work. So this is another natural treatment. They will infest the worm and kill it. But these treatments are biological, they're organic, they can be a bit slower. Another treatment is just to pick and remove the caterpillars as you encounter them, or to net your, you'd probably want a finer mesh than what's on here, like put a fine mesh over top of your broccoli or your cabbage when the butterflies are around to prevent them from laying eggs, or also removing the eggs. So I'll just show you BTK and what that looks like. We'll stop the share here. Where did I put it? There it is. So it's a biological insecticide. It comes here in a little container here, and you can mix that up and spray it on. You're spraying on kind of the bacteria that's going to kill all your little worms. It will be slower to act than some of the other sprays that you can use, but it's probably better for your garden. And everything I'm showing here, you can pick up either at a really good garden center, or even, like I said, at a Canadian Tire, Lowe's, Home Depot, Rona, wherever. Usually they'll have many of these products there. Let's go back to the presentation. Leaf miners. So if you've been walking out in the mountains and you've seen some aspen or poplar trees, you may have seen this beautiful pattern on the leaves and wondered what it is. So this is a lady from one of the bug pages, and she gave me permission to share her picture. She took this recently. It is the perfect picture to show a leaf miner because you can see its pattern as it crawled through and ate the chlorophyll out of the leaf. And there's the little worm right now. So leaf miners affect in the garden. You'll see them on, I've seen them on my peas, and I've seen them on, I've had a bad infestation in my spinach. I know some people that don't even want to grow spinach, they can get so bad. So here we see 3, and they're kind of inside the leaf, and the little black spots are their poop. So there's soaps, spinosad works well. Predator bugs such as parasitic wasps work well. I had a problem with them on my birch tree. And to help, I planted a lot of columbine. I didn't mind if the leaf miners got into the columbine flowers. So you can have a trap crop like that. You can cover the plants to prevent the flies from getting in there and laying their eggs. Very important to practice crop rotation. So I have a few more examples of leaf miners at various stages. So here, when they're first starting out, you won't see that worm in the leaf because they're still really small, and you'll just see these funny patterns. When they get bigger, you might actually see the worm crawling around. And here, they've actually exited the leaf. And I'll just zoom in so you can look at that a bit closer. So there's kind of the little worms. So they're all over my spinach. Best thing to do is pick off the leaves that are infected and destroy them and eat your spinach as fast as possible before they get into everything else. I also saw them on my sorrel this year. All right, the other, probably the worst bug I've ever encountered, both indoors and outdoors. So I tend to start many of my plants from seed, sometimes as early as February, under light tables inside. If you get a spider mite infestation inside, you're pretty limited to chemicals and diatomaceous earth to treat it, because you probably don't want to release ladybugs in your house. Outdoors, though, it's better to deal with, to have like predator insects. So what we see here, this is a magnified image of two, I think these ones are called two-spot spider mites. This round thing is an egg, and here's the spider mites. They're not spiders, they're mites, and they crawl around and they suck the life force out of your plant. They're just going to suck the plant dry. In a really bad infestation, they'll actually build nets all around the plant. And I've seen this indoors before, but not outdoors. You can see a little bit of their spider mite netting there. And this is why they're called spider mites, because they kind of make like a spider web. Now, you need a magnifying glass to see them. So what are the signs that your plant might be infested? Well, you'll kind of see these white dots start to show up on the leaves. And we'll switch off the screen here and I can show you some on some catnip leaves. So this is my tomato plant, and I call them vampire bugs because they suck them dry. They can be treated with soap sprays and oil sprays. Outdoors, predator bugs are great. So an adult ladybug will eat 100 spider mites per day. The larva will eat even more. Spine soldier bugs, type of stink bug, really like them. And so do the lacewing larvae. They can eat up to 200 spider mites a day. Mechanically blasting your plant with water will keep them moist. Spider mites prefer more of a dry environment. The problem with this tomato plant was it was growing against the house and it was protected by the eaves, so it wasn't getting rained on. So it was staying pretty dry and the spider mites could multiply. So you want to ensure adequate air circulation as well. Indoors, I'll set fans up on my plants to provide that air circulation. So let's see, maybe I'll wait till the end to show you stuff because I can see that we're running low on time. I'm happy to continue if everybody else is. This was the last bug that I wanted to show you, and then we'll talk briefly about diseases. So these are called tarnished plant bugs, or they go by the name Lygus. I've seen these in my yard on and off over the years, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting bug. I wonder what it is, but I never paid much attention. And then this year, there were a lot on my peonies. So I went and asked the people on the Facebook bug group I'm part of, what in the world are these things? And they told me they're not good. So here we can see a very healthy peony bud that is going to fully bloom. And then here you can see the top bud is healthy. And here the secondary buds are healthy. But down on this one, you can see they're kind of like bronzed and tarnished. They're kind of brownish color. They just don't look healthy. What's happened here is that the tarnished plant bug has come in. They really like buds and the tender growing ends of plants. And they've bitten these plants and sucked the juice out of them. So they're very bad for fruit crops. And there are many types of highly toxic chemicals you can spray on your plants, like permethrin, malathion, carbaryl. I don't really want to use this in my garden. So again, like I said, I'm encouraging the predators to eat them, but these are big bugs. Put on some gardening gloves, get out there and squish. That's probably the best approach. And since I started doing that this year, the secondary bugs on the plant that I was able to protect are going to bloom. And this is the first time this has happened on my peonies, because usually these tarnished plant bugs would go and kill all the secondary blooms. Again, they're going to overwinter in your garden if you don't clean up properly. So make sure when you cut your peonies down, you clean up all the leaves. I've seen these on my spinach and a few other plants as well. So they can be on many plants in the garden. So that's all the bugs. We're going to go briefly over some real diseases and some growing problems that might look like diseases. So the 4 diseases I want to talk about are fusarium wilt, potato scab, powdery mildew, and rust. These are very common ones that you'll see in your garden. And then I'm using a tomato as a growing problem example because tomatoes are very sensitive to different conditions. So, you know, they might be too dry or they might be too wet, and you could end up with blossom end rot. They might have too little or too much fertilizer, and then their leaves are going to look weird. It might be too hot or too cold when the flower blossoms come out and they get cat-faced, or you might be dealing with hail and wind damage. So we'll go over all of that last, and I have some examples of that to show you. But let's talk fusarium wilt. So I've had problems with this in basil and marjoram. So here you can see the basil. This is a nice healthy plant up here on the right. And here you can see some very sad marjoram that's all wilted. So what we're looking for when we're identifying fusarium wilt is it's kind of got this discolored leaves. It's not growing very well. It's wilted and has kind of like a shepherd's hook here. And you can see on the stem, parts of the stems are starting to turn dark brown, and that's kind of crawling up the stems. There's no cure for fusarium wilt. Once your plants are infected, they're going to die. Now, it's very important to identify what fusarium wilt is, especially when you're shopping at a garden center. And if you have a kind heart and you see some plants in the discount bin that, you know, they don't look too healthy, but you're a good gardener, you're going to be able to take care of them, bring them home and get them healthy. Well, that's what I did. And I didn't realize that those poor, unhappy, kind of wilted plants that I bought in the discount bin, they had fusarium wilt. And I brought it home and I introduced it to my garden. So it will remain in the soil. Do not compost plants that have been affected by it. Discard of that in the garbage. And don't plant the same plant in that location for like 2 or 3 years to try to get it out of the soil. So the best approach is, if you see it, destroy the plant. Don't plant the same plant there next year. Potato scab. If you grow potatoes, you may have encountered this. Here are some nice looking potatoes after I learned how not to get potato scab. And then there's some really good websites you can go to that will kind of walk you through what exactly potato scab is and how to treat it. You can eat potatoes with potato scab. They're just kind of ugly. They've got all these little warty bumps on them. So they infect also radishes, beets, kind of any tuberous plants. They can be caused by using very fresh manure, because the manure can carry the disease and it will survive in the soil for many years. It's more common when your soil is very dry and alkaline. Some of the best ways to avoid it is plant disease-free or disease-resistant varieties, but more importantly, practice crop rotation. So if you have potatoes that had potato scab, don't plant them there again for like 3 or 4 years. Also, make sure your watering is consistent. Don't overwater, but don't underwater. They're going to thrive more in dry soil. And if you do happen to pull your potato plant up and you find some scab on it, don't throw your potatoes away. They're still perfectly fine. Just cut off some of the scab and you can eat them. I saved some plants from when I was growing stuff indoors to show you guys some pictures of powdery mildew. So here we see some lettuces that we're growing indoors. You can kind of see where my mouse is here. There's kind of that powdery whitish part on it. And if the leaf is left to go long enough with the powdery mildew, it's going to die back. So here's a zoom of some powdery mildew. It's a fungus and it can be spread by the wind or from the soil when you're watering and soil splashes up onto the leaves. So the most common causes, like it's going to be more common on plants that are in the shade. So not enough light, not enough air circulation. So if you're planting your plants too close to the fence, I've had that problem, or if they're crowded together, and if there's too much humidity. So this was the problem indoors on the light table I was growing these on. I didn't have a fan on this particular table, and it was very humid. So the powdery mildew kind of exploded. So proper watering techniques are important. Mulching to prevent that soil splash up, but probably the easiest treatment if you find it on your plants, and I've seen this on everything from caraganas to lettuce to hollyhocks, various different plants may present it, a milk spray. So milk or whey kind of 40% milk to 60% water, put that in a spray bottle and go and spray it on, and that will help treat it. The other thing that works well is sulfur spray. So sulfur is a good spray that you can pick up in most garden centers. And then there's rust. So we were just talking at the beginning of this presentation with a few people about rust on their garlic. Here I'm showing some rust on a sorrel leaf, some rust on a Saskatoon, and you can see that it's infected the Saskatoon berry, and there's that rust-like powder, and some rust on a red currant. So common causes, it's a fungal pathogen, it's going to spread, it's a disease, but it can be encouraged when there's too much light, high temperatures, and high humidity. The best defense is by disease-resistant plants. But secondly, if you find it in your garden, get rid of all the leaves that have rust, cut them off, throw them away. Clean up really well in fall. I once rescued some hollyhocks. They were heritage hollyhocks. I wanted them in my yard. I brought them in. Turned out they had rust. I did not want to get rid of them, and they were badly infected. Like 90% of the leaves had rust on them. So I used a sulfur spray and was pretty consistent, spraying the leaves about once a week, and it cleared it up. I still find it occasionally in my sorrel and rhubarb, but just pick the leaves off, make sure you clean up in fall, and that is probably the easiest way to deal with it, that and the sulfur spray. So some common problems that can happen with tomatoes that may look like a disease, but are not, are cat face. So this is when the bottom of your tomato kind of gets this scaly stuff all over in it and doesn't form properly. I was never sure what caused this, so I started researching it, and it's from incomplete pollination. And this tends to happen when the buds are forming at lower temperatures. So if it's been below 16 degrees for 2 or 3 weeks before your tomato blooms, it might end up with cat face. There's nothing wrong with it. Tomato is perfectly edible. It's just a little ugly. Cut the cat face off and enjoy your delicious tomato. My tomatoes often suffer from hail. You can see kind of these white spots on the leaves. That's where hail has hit the leaf and damaged it. But you know, the leaves will recover, and as long as the hail isn't too severe, the plant should be fine. However, you could put like a netting over top, or even like run out and throw sheets over your plants to protect them from the hail. Blossom end rot. Anyone who's ever grown tomatoes has probably encountered this at some point in time. A lot of people say this is a lack of calcium. And that's true, sort of. It's actually due to inconsistent watering. So what's happening is when the soil is too dry, the tomato plant can't absorb the calcium from the soil, and then it will end up with the blossom end rot. I've had this when I've been planting like more than one tomato in a pot. I've crowded tomatoes together, and I've been a little inconsistent in my watering. So it is both a calcium issue and a watering issue. So you want to be very consistent with your watering. I now water my tomatoes with a soaker hose on a timer, so they get the same amount at the same time every few days. And make sure you fertilize your tomatoes. They are heavy feeders, and if your soil is poor, you want to make sure there is good calcium in the soil. So you could add eggshells is a good thing to add. Some people actually crush up those Alka-Seltzer tablets and put them in because they have lots of calcium in them. So that's everything I wanted to show you. I'm going to stop here and show you some plant examples now and some different types of sprays, and then we can take questions if people have any. So the first thing I was going to show you is I picked some peonies here, and here is a gorgeous peony where I was able to protect it, and the secondary buds are coming in and they'll actually bloom. But this sad peony plant, I didn't get to it fast enough before the tarnished bugs got it. And if you look, you can see like the primary bloom got it, and these secondary ones too have all been sucked dry of life. So this is not going to bloom, this branch of the peony. It has been badly damaged by the tarnished bugs. So now that I understand what's damaging them, I'm able to protect my peonies. And it's pretty easy. Just go out there, like I said, with gloves and squish them. You might see holes in your leaves and think, oh no, there's a giant bug eating my plant. This is a rhubarb leaf, and that's hail damage. And it was pretty heavy hail, and it went right through the rhubarb. So Not a big deal unless the hail is like a golf ball or tennis ball sized, and then none of your plants might survive. These were some leaves of the tomato that have hail damage, but they also have, I'm going to see if I can bring that close enough so you can see. There's kind of spots on them where they're a little bit white, like really small spots, where they might have a little bit of flea beetle bite. And then this is the catnip. It's a little limp because I picked it this morning. You can kind of see that white on the tips of the leaves. That's an indication of spider mites. So the spider mites do really like the catnip. That smells delicious. Some other things I might not have shown you is, oh yeah, so your tomatoes, if they're hungry, you know, make sure your soil, you put good fertilizer in it. I've been using Gaia Green. It's a powder that's organic. It's been really good for the tomatoes. But you can also just buy like, you know, general tomato food. I like tomato spikes because you put a couple in and they're good for like a month or so. So you want to find something specifically for tomatoes. They tend to need a different type of fertilizer. And I don't know if you've ever seen leaves where they've gone yellow, but the veins are still green. I've had cases of iron chlorosis in my yard where the plant, just like the tomato couldn't take up the calcium, here they can't take up iron. So you might need to, and this happens to my raspberries a lot. So what I'll do is I'll mix up this iron product and then spray it onto my raspberry leaves. And that usually clears up the problem in a couple weeks. And then I make sure that my raspberries have a good fertilizer that has iron in it. It can be more of a problem in areas where you have clay soil. The sulfur sprays. So this is a good spray. This is 3-in-1. It will deal with powdery mildew, rust, black spot, as well as aphids, spider mites, white flies, and other pests. So this has the potassium salts of fatty acids. It's like a soap. It also has sulfur in it. So that's going to treat the rust and help with the powdery mildew. You can get sulfur powder to dust on as well, and that will work too. And then I have a variety of different insecticidal soaps. So this one here has a different salt of fatty acids. I think I showed you this earlier. That's another kind. And then if you want to go really strong.
Which insecticide soap would you recommend?
I like the ones, I've been really happy with the safer soaps. And for the most part, I'm just using the soapy ones. But if I get into some bad bugs, like the flea beetles, I might go with something with a pyrethrin. I have trouble. And like I said, if it gets to be a really severe infection, I might go with a really strong spray. But I try to avoid these because these can hurt good bugs as well. With the soap sprays, you know, you can make your own, like just dish soap and, like I said, dish soap and garlic mixed up and sprayed on plants. They might work a little slower, but you know, that's an easy, cheap method. And then diatomaceous earth, here's the powder again. I mix this up. I use this inside quite a bit. So if you have a spider mite infestation, diatomaceous earth, like a tablespoon mixed with, or 2 tablespoons mixed with a liter of water into a spray bottle, shake it really well. You can spray your plants. I don't like to use it outside as much because it will kill any soft-sided bug that it encounters, so good bugs as well. But I'll spray my plants indoors. They'll look a little funny for a few weeks because I got the white powder as it dries. But then after about 3 weeks, that's killed off the spider mites and their eggs that just hatched. It's the best treatment I found for spider mites indoors. And then, you know, once you got it under control, you can wash it off your plants. And they look better. But again, be careful with it outdoors. Don't want to spread it around too much. And then, I wanted to talk briefly about sticky traps. So this is a sticky trap. So you would peel the paper off, and then it's going to be super sticky. I only use these indoors. They work great for fungus knots. This is the best treatment I found for fungus knots indoors. I don't like them outdoors because they trap good bugs too. If you have them indoors, don't have them somewhere where a cat could get them on their whiskers, or a dog could pick them up, or a bird could fly into them. Thankfully, I've never had trouble with the bird, but we did have a cat incident and it was rather unpleasant. Oh, and then here, I brought a tomato in. This is a very sad tomato plant. I saved it to show you guys. You should not let your tomato plants get to this point. See, it's very, very sad leaves.
Yeah.
This tomato plant is not, it's kind of, the color's hard to see, but the veins are almost purple and the leaves are kind of greeny yellow. The problem is this tomato hasn't been fed, and that's it. So it kind of got forgotten about, it got left in its pot too long, and it hasn't had any fertilizer, so it's starving. So make sure you feed your tomato plants properly. This one will now go and be fed now that I've shown you guys what it looks like.
But it'll be fine once you feed it, right?
It'll take a few weeks. It might be set back a bit, like, you know, it hasn't been getting its proper nutrients, so it may not produce as well initially, but they will recover eventually.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had a few, I don't know if it's crawled away now, but one of those horrible leaf miners crawled out of its leaf, and I was going to show it to you, but I think it's crawled away in the container here. So I just have one or two more slides to show you because I got some recommendations for where to get more information, and then I can answer as many questions as you have. So let's see here, we'll get just to the end here. So the recommendation for learning more is be curious about your garden. Watch your plants grow, observe insects. If a bug is unknown to you, you need to find out what it is before squishing it, because it might be a good bug, like the ladybug larva, or it might be a bad bug, like the tarnished plant bug. Take lots of pictures. In preparing this talk, I've realized I need to take more pictures of the problems, so I have more pictures of, you know, what goes wrong, just not pictures of what goes right, and join some gardening Facebook groups. So the DIGA group who's sponsoring this workshop, that'd be a great one to be on. And then I've been looking for a bug group in BC. I haven't found a good one yet, but the Alberta Bugs and Insects, I have learned so much being part of this group. So I really enjoy seeing different bugs every day and learning about them. And finally, if you want to contact me, probably the best place to reach me is on Facebook. My current profile picture is my dog and cat, and I go under the name of Andrea Crook, with my maiden name being Letkeman. So you should be able to find me with that. I'm not always great on email, but I do pay attention to my Facebook Messenger. So my account is private, but if you send me a message, I should be able to see it, and I'll gladly connect with you. So that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed putting it together for you, and I hope it was helpful.
Robert, did you, or sorry, not Robert, Richard, did you want to show your picture?
Give that a shot.
Sure, I'm just gonna allow you to share your screen. So you should be able to have an option at the bottom of your of the Zoom that says share screen.
Okay, that's me holding my horribly attacked radish.
Yeah, that is a problem. I don't know exactly what that would be, but I wonder, you know, looking on the bottom there, it kind of looks scabby, like the potato scabs. So
that's like it's a grub, like
a grub of some sort. Yeah.
That white thing right in the middle of the radish there.
Yeah.
There were numerous ones, and it burrowed right into the radish and destroyed it.
Yeah, that is terrible. So I don't know exactly what that one would be. I haven't encountered that before, but with the bugs in the soil like that are eating plants, the nematodes work quite well. They take some time, but what they'll do is they will infest and kill these worms and bugs and stuff that are in the soil. So that would probably be my first approach. You know, spraying doesn't really work when it's underground. Have you planted radishes in this location before?
No, this is our first year in the community garden.
Okay, yeah. So make sure next year the radishes are in a different spot. But yeah, that one I'm not familiar with. So that's where, you know, a Facebook group that specializes in insects might be able to help.
Okay, so the nematodes, so I'll just get those at the garden shop or something?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I would take a picture of that to the garden shop and show them the problem. But typically when I've had problems in the soil, the beneficial nematodes have helped quite a bit.
Okay, great.
I actually have a question about an indoor plant. It's a tropical plant. It's I don't remember the name of it. I believe it's a calathea. It's a purplish leaf plant, and there are a lot of brown spots on it. A lot of yeah. I wish I had a picture of it, but it literally just random brown spots all over it.
Do they look kind of round? Because that's kind of how rust starts, although I wouldn't expect rust indoors.
Yeah, I was thinking not necessarily rust, but it did kind of look like rust.
Yeah, so have you been feeding it regularly?
Yes.
Okay, because sometimes what can happen with houseplants is we feed them too much. And then they get too much fertilizer in them, and then their leaves can start to get discolored or die back. So I've had trouble like that actually with hot peppers, or inconsistent watering. Sometimes inconsistent watering, too much fertilizer, they're going to grow funny and their leaves are going to be damaged. You don't see any flies or bugs or anything crawling around?
Not this plant. We were wondering if it was infestation because it was a new plant. And,
yeah, that's how I always ended up with spider mites in my house to bring a new plant back.
Yeah.
So look on the stem carefully too, because there's sometimes scale bugs can be on plants, and they just look like kind of brown scaly spots on the stem. I haven't really seen them on leaves. Trying to think what else, but I would maybe, you know, check its water, like maybe it needs to dry out a bit and maybe not have fertilizer for a while, just to see if maybe it's taking up too much nutrients and it's burning the leaves.
Possibly. It is doesn't get too much light because it is shade loving plant.
Okay.
So we're hoping that it just didn't get burnt, but it doesn't look like it because they are little spots all over the place. So
yeah, speaking of burning, so this tomato, it's all crumbled up now, but what happened when I brought the tomato out is the leaves were really young and I hadn't hardened it off. So to harden off, you want your plants to come out on a shady day, spend a couple hours, like on a cloudy day, not too much sun, bring them in and out so they gradually accustomized. That leaf there, it got into the bright sun too fast and the leaf burnt. So it turned white first and then it turned brown and eventually it died. So yeah, I don't know, maybe the conditions in the garden center where you got it from, it got too much light. That's a possibility too.
All right, well, I'll keep researching that.
Yeah,
really peculiar. It's just that one plant, and it's the one that's just, it's a beautiful plant, lots of purple growth, and it's the one indoor plant that's just not doing well, and we've been researching just.
So I would say, you know, go online and look for groups that specialize in houseplants and join one and post a picture. Like, people are really helpful. They're always happy to answer questions, and they enjoy the challenge of figuring these things out.
Oh, okay. I'll do that.
Perfect. I actually had a question.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this would apply, but do you have any experience with mitigating horsetails?
Oh, okay, yes. The neighborhood I live in, it's a bit of a mountain area, and horsetails are highly invasive. In fact, they're cracking through the asphalt in some people's driveways. So I thought, you know, pull them out, cut them down. Well, their root systems can be 20 feet long. So pulling them out, you know, it's a mitigation measure, and yeah, you can keep on doing that, but they're going to regrow. Cutting them can actually encourage more to grow. So the two organic methods that were recommended by a gardener in the area was burn them. So don't do this during fire season, but go and get, you know, you can rent one of those blow torches for burning weeds, And that's actually extremely effective. But don't do it when it's dry. Don't do it when they're, close to a house or anything. They also said, if you do cut them, you can spray them with a mixture of, you want, it's 10% vinegar, so cleaning vinegar, mixed with a couple tablespoons of, they were using Dawn dish soap and Epsom salts. So this is a really good weed killer. Shake that all up and put it in a spray bottle, spray them. It will kill the leaves. They'll grow back, but over time, if you keep on killing the leaves, then they'll exhaust their root system and they may not come back. The other thing to watch for is when they're growing, you'll see that some of them are kind of frondy and have the fronds coming off of them. And some of them kind of look like mushrooms and they kind of look like they have powder around the edge. Those are the ones that produce spores. You need to pick those as soon as possible before they explode the spores everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so now that's the organic approach. There are chemicals you can use. I can't remember the name, like it had a D and an N and a 5 in it. They're extraordinarily toxic. So I would say if you are going to go the chemical route, it's chemicals that get rid of sedges. So not grasses, but sedges. That's what you're looking for. They're banned in many towns and cities. If you do need to go that route, they should only be sprayed when there's no wind. But you can go in, put a little bit of chemical in a small container, if you've got a small area to do, and paint it onto the plant, the specific plant you want to get rid of. So kind of spot attack it. I've done that. I've had problems with creeping bellflower. And you dig and dig and dig and that root is there forever. I've painted specific leaves of the creeping bellflower very carefully with chemicals to try to get rid of it. I don't like doing that, but sometimes, it's the only thing that you can do. However, if you can dig really deep after roots, I have had success with the bellflower and it might work with horsetail. You dig down until you get to the main root system and then pour boiling water on it. It'll sterilize the soil and boil the plant and kill it. So I don't like creeping bellflower. I thought it was a beautiful plant when it first showed up in my garden. I was mistaken. It's so invasive and very difficult to get rid of, and horsetails are similar.
Yeah, we have a big, we're dealing with a bit of a horsetail issue at one of our gardens that we're just completing construction on at GF Strong. Okay. And so that will be...
Yeah, so if you're building a new garden, another thing you can do, because this will help mitigate the horsetail problem, is before you put the soil in the garden boxes, put a bunch of cardboard down. So like, half-inch thick of cardboard and then some really thick mulch on top of that, and then put the soil on top. Over the years, it will break down, but it will be very difficult for anything to grow through.
Okay. About that chemical that gets rid of sedges, I know you said it was banned in a lot of towns. Does it pose significant health risks for people?
I don't know.
More of an environmental concern.
Yes, I think it's more of an environmental concern, but with any sort of herbicide, do we really want Roundup in our garden?
Yeah.
Let me just see here.
Because we are looking at ways to get rid of that horsetail and that community. Yeah, so we want to be very careful.
The burning of it does work well. Vinegar is great too. The vinegar spray is really effective. You just might have to repeat it. Here it is. It's called 2,4-G amine. And, I'd be really hesitant to use it. Be very careful, read the instructions carefully, understand what you're dealing with. And then the vinegar, the reason you put the Epsom salts and the soap in is the soap helps it stick and the Epsom salts help dry, but the vinegar sprayed on it will kill it. You just might have to repeat that multiple times to get it under control. And that's a lot friendlier.
Okay.
That sounds perfect, actually. I know we've been trying to use some lime powder, which apparently does not, it kind of just keeps them under control. And doesn't allow them to spread as much, but they do keep coming back. So
they do. So I've prepared a bit of this vinegar spray, and I've made a point now of buying the cleaning vinegar. That's the stronger stuff. If you can get your hands on industrial vinegar, which might be 15 to 20% instead of 10% acid, that will be even more effective. But you want to wear gloves and be careful dealing with that.
Totally. Thank you so much. That's so helpful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have really enjoyed talking with all of you. I hope you've learned a lot. And yeah, gardening's fun. Be curious.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Andrea, for taking the time to speak with our group. It was lovely.
I've really enjoyed it too. So thank you for inviting me, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
And if any of you guys want to hear more about gardening, we have other workshops coming up in July. Our next one is July 9th. So stay tuned if you want to learn about invasive plants. It's kind of
that sounds like a good one. You should ask them about the horsetail.
The horsetail.
Andrea, you're welcome to come too. This is open to anyone.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.